Hi, I'm Gil. I'm the pastor here. Nice to meet
take that.
Okay.
How many guesses that we can give us?
Maybe,
One or two or three. Don't give it the New York
well,
guesses.
maybe I should let them hear me tell it first.
She's the real New Yorker.
Yeah.
By the way, she is.
I heard it. Oh.
So guess number one is wrong.
Uh-oh.
Australia. That was a new one for me, but I'll take it. Guess number two, scratch that one is also wrong. What else?
Downtown, we are a coalition of 3 Baptist churches that include an English congregation, a Haitian congregation, and a Hispanic congregation. So we are certainly glad to have you here today for this very important conversation about how to survive an active shooting situation. We have a representative here with us. We actually have 2 from Montgomery County Sheriff's Police Department. And so I'm going to turn it over to them now. And here we have Sharif. I'm going to let you pronounce the last name.
Almagopper. That's why she wanted to know. No, if I say Sharif, she's going to remember, oh, there was a guy, actor, his name was Omar Sharif.
Yep.
He was old like me, you probably will remember him. And maybe that will be the Egyptian guy, and let me just guess the Egyptian.
Why you didn't give me your name?
I'm sorry. I wanted to keep the guessing game going.
Pronounce your last name again, please.
Almagopper.
Almagopper.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give a signal for it when ready. Good morning, everyone. You already know my name. My name is Sharif, and last name is Al-Magabbar, and you already know where I'm from. I've been a police officer with Montgomery County Police Department in the last 18 years. Last 4 years has been with the Community Engagement Division. I work in the police headquarters. You can request this training. This training is not limited to houses of worship. It is expanded to any organization that will request it. If you in a private sector, yes, you can request it. If you in corporate America, you can request it. If you in any type of house of worship, the church, the mosque, the synagogue, the temple, the Buddhist, whatever the faith is, you can request it. This is something that's for you to have. And we'll talk about this a little more, but you know and you see what's been going on around the country, nationwide, without pointing out to any examples or names. And you already know and aware that this stuff is happening. We don't want it to happen in our territory. We're here just to give people options. Your turn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Glenda Franco. I'm the Community Service Officer. I work here in Silver Springs. As he mentioned, he's out of headquarters, so he can be requested anywhere in the county. I work in Silver Spring only. I've been a police officer for 22 years. I was a New York City police officer before I came here. And I have been here since 2005. In 2014, I transitioned over from patrol to community service, and this is my job. Speaking to the public, bridging the gap between the police department and the community, educating the community. And I was requested to come here by the pastor, but this guy here is the expert in active shooter training. And I am recovering from illness, so I'm going to be sitting down and not doing much of the talking today. I'm going to just be taking notes and learning from this guy. So we're excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
So really quick, what is our program today like? Our program today will be two parts. Part one will be really simple, a video. You're going to be sitting down and watching that video. The video is maybe 10, 11 minutes. The video is an example of an active shooter scenario that's happening in a certain environment. That environment will be more like a Home Depot type, Walmart type store environment, where you have an acting. This is just an acting. It's a poor acting, so that's a good thing. It's not a perfect acting, right? And it does not involve any blood. It does not involve any actual shooting, just to make it clear. The video is something that you're going to watch in your own right now. And we're going to comment in the video where we apply pretty much everything that you will see in the video within that PowerPoint presentation that will follow the video. PowerPoint presentation, it could take maybe 45 minutes. After the 45 minutes, we're going to open it for questions and answer. And that's pretty much what we have. I want you to have an open mind, and I want you to take whatever you learned today. Don't limit it to the church or the house of worship. This is something, same concept that will apply in corporate America, that will apply in a grocery store while you're shopping at the same time. Might require you to do some work or some homework in the locations that you're going to, but it could apply any which word that you go to. You want to give yourself options. Quick history. A few years ago, since this active shooting stuff been going on for years, they decided to pull us, law enforcement guys, and they want to teach us, give us some training about how to respond to active shooter scenarios for us, for law enforcement. So they taught us how to come in and search rooms, for example. They taught us how to respond and have a quick response in case of an active shooter scenario. So that was done, a check mark for the local law enforcement guys. They wanted to expand about this a little more. Department of Homeland Security, they said, oh, well, let's get other people involved. What is the other people? The other people are the security directors, the security managers that you have in organization. It could be a security director of a corporate America scenario, an office-based scenario, a work environment, or it could be a security manager or security director of a mall, a shopping center. You have those guys also with security personnel. Or it could be that some houses of worship also will have their own security staff. Not everyone, but it might happen. So they taught them a couple of things about, hey, what you need to do when it comes up to the police response and all of this stuff. That was also a second check mark. What they forgot about is who? The role players. I call you guys the role players. Why you are the role players? Because you, as a civilian, that will be the person who is actually involved if you get caught in the middle of an active shooter scenario. So someone finally decided to think about it and said, hey, how about educating the people, educating the public that they actually could be involved in an active shooter scenario? Those guys, we need to give them options, and that's what this security, or that's what this training is all about. So today we're going to talk about the civilian response. You as a civilian, how to respond to an active shooter scenario. We're starting with the video, and I'm giving a thumb up to the computer staff back there, where they actually can get it starting with the video whenever they can. Thank you.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Do anything last weekend? It was very nice, wasn't it?
Excited about it is the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested. Yeah, definitely. Now, she figured out what college she wants to go to?
911, what's your emergency? We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
issues that we found... Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you find out.
There's a man with a gun. He's right there.
What's the wall? Lights. Lock it.
By county. There you go. You're safe for that.
There's a guy with a gun. He's shooting. Look.
James, we don't have
No, look.
Run! 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 To the right! To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way! This way! This way!
Oh no, come here.
Yeah, in here! In here! The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight. All right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down! Hold him down!
Gosh, I'm just so glad you're okay.
Yes, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home.
Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped.
Get the gun!
This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts.
I'm not sure. There's 3 of us in the room. We're on the...
There's a guy with a gun. He's shooting.
This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
Good. We're going to move on to the PowerPoint presentation. And it's pretty much is going to cover what you actually just watched in the video. We're going to go over it. Maybe we're going to break it down a little bit. I'll try to relate to houses of worship since we are in a church environment today. And I say houses of worship in general. I'll try to give example more in houses of worship about what do you have that you can use for your advantage versus maybe corporate America, and what they already have as an advantage. And we'll explain that more. So you can hear me back there. We're going to start clicking the PowerPoint presentation. What we do, we're going to talk about active attack events, and I'm going to say next for the next slide, and that's when you click again. I'm going to say next again, and keep clicking till you actually get this. So what we have, what's the definition of an active shooter? It's a mass shooting. A person who just decide to fire in a lot of people. We're going to talk about reasons later, but that's what you have as an active shooter. So here's a question, here's a quiz. You have a robbery going on. 7-Eleven store, right? I'm just making up a scenario. Guy comes in with a gun. Give me the money. That's an active shooter? It's not. He's not even shooting. He wants the money. If it's a bank robbery, that's not an active shooter, right? So that's a completely different scenario. So if you have a robbery that even involves shooting, was he considered an active shooter? Because, hey, I asked you to give me the money. You refused, because whatever the reason. And I wanted to send a statement, a strong statement, and I decide to shoot you in your arm. So now it's an actual shooting going on. Is he, the suspect, actively shooting at people? Not in this scenario, not in this example. So when I say active shooter, that's a person that he is targeting people for whatever the reason, and we're going to talk about that soon. Next slide. And this is, what is the profile of attacker? So you try to come up with a profile. By the way, the police department does not profile people. What do we profile for? Behavior. So think about that, because you will be doing the same thing. Think about the behavior of the people. Don't think about the people accent. I'm going to make fun of myself. I'm sorry. or the people skin color, I'm going to say this straightforward out loud, or the people race or where they came from. We're not thinking about any of this. I'm thinking only about the behavior of the people, the attitude. Hey, I'm walking corporate America and it's corporate America and I know everyone. And I'm going to say, good morning. And someone is going to tell me the quick common answer is, oh, good morning to you too. Am I attached to this? Okay, thank you. And another person, sometimes, I know that this is a weird response, but maybe you're going to say, why? That's a little odd answer, right? If I'm telling you good morning and you tell me why do you think it's a good morning? What's so good about it? That is the behavior that you're analyzing. Because that's not the normal answer that you would like to give to good morning, right? So think about that part, because that will apply in corporate America from a person who's agitated, who have whatever the issues that he or she. It will also apply in a church environment where you're coming into a house of worship to worship, but you're showing that you aggravated by something. I don't know what it is. Next slide. So this is stuff that maybe corporate America can do. What does corporate America do when you say you're hiring someone? If I'm hiring somebody today, right, what do? We do background investigation, maybe, right? We want to look at the people's history. We want to check their criminal records, maybe. We want to check if they have a clean driving records, because that's important to us. I don't want to be hiring someone who is, maybe a sex offender, or maybe have prior crime commitment. I don't want to be hiring a guy who is maybe stopped 3-4 times in DWI, that he's known that he used to drink in the past. So in corporate America, I have some clues that I'll be able to guide me to try, because it may not be completely 100% gonna clear everybody, but I'll try to hire a clear person. Do we have this in a house of worship environment? We don't. Am I doing a background investigation in a church environment? We don't. A church environment is different than corporate America environment. How is that? In corporate America, I'm selecting the people that I would like to join me to do a certain job, right? I'm hiring you to be paid to do a certain task for me, and I get to pick and choose based on a process of applying a resume, an interview, an orientation, and all of this stuff. In a church environment or in a house of worship environment, what we do? We have a very open environment, right? We got an open door policy. We would like to help people. We would like to invite people in. I'd like you to come over and listen to the words of God. Or maybe you're just a homeless person or a hungry person that's passing in the streets and just coming in and ask you, hey, can you help me out? I need some food. It's been a tough time. This is the pandemic. So your environment here is completely different. Some of this stuff may not apply to you. You cannot figure out the history of violence of the person if that person is passing by to you because you are just having that inviting environment, right? You cannot figure out if that person was exposed to violence or not, how he or she was raised. Would they ever use drugs or never use drugs in the past? Did they have a form of mental illness? Well, maybe you can figure this out based on behavior. Again, nothing else but the behavior of the person. If they're acting in a behavior or in a way that maybe something is not right. Maybe they just need help. Doesn't make them a bad person. But just you trying to analyze what they have, right? Next slide. All right, that's a part of the history again, the factors. Any harassment factors, any kind of, if that person is completely isolated, well, you might see this in corporate America. Even if I did my homework and my background investigation, not everyone is having that happy moment. Not everyone is talkative, like I talk a lot. My wife told me, you cannot keep your mouth shut. She also told me I'm a loud guy. I don't need a microphone, but I'd like to talk to people. I love people. But some other people, they get a little shy. and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that they are bad people. It means that I just want to work by myself, right? I'd like to have my own space. I don't want to get too close to people, regardless if I know them or not. Again, you need to analyze the behavior of the person based on what they have, because maybe that's just their normal behavior. Maybe they would like to work alone and nothing more to it. Next slide. All right, so this is what happened based on the history. Where is the active shooter scenarios happen? You know, a commerce that applies to the corporate America part, what also applies to it, shopping centers, the mall, grocery stores in Buffalo, not to bring any, reminders of anything, but that will be a part of it, right? Education, all the schools, Virginia Tech incidents, middle schools, high schools, elementary schools, without mentioning names, that will be the percentage for it. Outdoors, remember, concert somewhere, and we'll talk about that also briefly, where a person who decided to use a higher ground, he decided to find a room in a hotel, and he decided to shoot at the people in an open space where they have no place to go while they actually attending a concert. So that was the outdoor scenario. Or others, and the others is houses of worship is a part of it. So you are in a smaller percentage, but is it happening? Has it been happening in the past? Yes. Next slide. So this is important. Connection or no connection. It's almost 50%. 55, 45, that's not the issue. I'm going to call it 50-50. What is a connected or not connected means? So I'll give you the corporate America example. The corporate America example is an employee that was fired. The Annapolis Newspaper Gazette. How about that? You heard about it, right? Did this guy used to be an ex-employee? Did he used to work at the newspaper? Yes. So you think he's considered connected to this location or not connected? He is connected. He's familiar with that place. He used to work in that place. Versus a person who's not connected. What is an example of that? I'm going to say that in myself. I don't like all Muslim people. I'm a Muslim guy, by the way. So that's the example that I'm using. And because I don't like Muslim people, I'm the guy who's going to go to a mosque and shoot them all. So am I connected to that mosque? I'm not. So in a church example, the suspect also could be connected or could be not connected. He could be connected if he, in a disagreement, for example, forgive me, Pastor, back there, I'm just using an example. If he in a disagreement of what the pastor is talking about with people. If he asks for money from that church, help me out, and maybe he was giving that money once in the past, and maybe they told him, hey, we're not going to give you any more, for whatever the reason. So he feels like that he got denied, right, the money. Versus a person who is just, I hate certain group of people that I'm not connected to them. I'm going to go to that Muslim mosque and just shoot them all because I think they're all terrorists. Right? You heard that before, right? So that's just a hater person who's not connected to the mosque. Versus, again, the first example, the guy who is asking for money and who is giving money by that church. He is connected to that church. He got help from that church in the past, but that church is denying giving him any more money again. Next slide. So this happened in a FedEx facility in the state of Maryland, where a mentally ill female in this scenario got to do some shooting and some damage and some killing of people. Next slide. And this happened also in the example that we mentioned in Annapolis, that Capital newspaper. Next slide. And that's also in the state of Maryland. And this happened in California in a car scenario. Next slide. And this happened in Orlando, Florida, when it comes up to another scenario, an open space scenario. Next slide. In Las Vegas, so one was in a nightclub and the second one was in a concert, and it was not related, and there was no connection between the people that they got shot or the facility that they were got shot at and the shooter. Next slide. It happened in New York. Can you do an active shooter using a car? Does an active shooter have to be with a handgun? It could be a handgun, it could be a rifle, it could be a machine gun, it could be a car explosive, it could be a knife, a person who's actively involved in killing people, but the use is not of an actual automatic weapon, but it just happened to be a knife. Next slide. And it could be in a church in Texas in 2017, and that was also an example. And I'm not trying to talk about special cases. We're just passing by it. I'm just trying to explain to you that this has been happening. Next slide. This also happened, but actually happened recently in 2022 in a scenario where the actual pastor of the church decided to get involved. He's like, hey, we're fighting in this scenario. And we'll talk about that a little further. You're going to have choices. It doesn't mean that we're asking you to do one choice over the other. It means you need to think and consider about your choices, and maybe you'll decide to go for one. What we don't want you to do is not to do nothing. That's the important part. Next slide. This happened in another locations, in other churches also. And again, I'm not talking about a special case study. My job is to mention to you that this has been happening. Next one. Happened in other houses of worship, like a Sikh temple in 2012, and also resulted in death and injured a bunch of people. Next one. That's another church here in South Carolina, and and this was not too far away, and another proof that it's happening in houses of worship. Next slide. This is an example that happened in Canada, and it's the only Muslim example that I found. There was no mosques within the United States that had an active shooter that I'm aware of, which is, I think they're still waiting, but this has happened. It happened in Quebec, Canada. Next slide. All right, that's another event here that happened at a church in Tennessee. And next one. And another one in Texas. Next. Synagogue, the Tree of Life. You probably heard about this. That was recent. That happened in Pittsburgh. Resulted in death of a number of people and injury of a number of people also. And I know that this is international because New Zealand is not even United States, and it's not even Canada that's nearby or next door to United States. But this was a big event, so that's why I just wanted to highlight it. Probably that was the largest number of death and injury that happened in an active shooter scenario around the world, because this was just big, and it happened in 2 different locations at the time. Next slide. This also happened, in those 2 locations. And again, this is not just an example. I give you something to mention, and maybe that you're doing some reading about it, but not what we're talking about. Our talk about today is about options that you will need to have in case you get caught in the middle of a scenario like this. Next one. Another synagogue organization that this happened recently in the beginning of this year. That was just also another scenario. Next slide. And we all heard about this incident that happened not too far ago in Buffalo. Was that person connected to that grocery store? He was not connected. Did this person scan and decided to choose a certain location? Yes. What was he targeting? A certain race, a certain group of people, right? He knows about this location. He knows about who is living in this location. And he went to straight where people gather to do their shopping in a grocery store. Just to, so he's not technically connected. He's driven by hate of a certain group of people. Next slide. So this is a map, United States map, and you can see what it says in the bottom right side right here. Where you have the yellow or the red or the blue, the gun, the knife, or the car scenario. It shows where active shooter happens within years. It's going to come up, that map. We kept it, we upgraded to keep it closer to up to date, because I think it will stop in the year of 2021. If you want to retire and move to another state, you need to pay attention to this map. Some states never get hit by an active shooter scenario. Would it be a good, attractive state to maybe to retire and go to? I have no idea, just something that I'm mentioning. This map started in a certain year. Active shooter scenarios happened before that year. This map is going to continue again till 2021. Notice that the use of knife exists, but it's not a lot. How many red dots that you can see, it is happening. Notice that the use of cars is down to the minimum. The 4 plus or 4 minus, more or less, is the number of the victims involved. They just choose 4 as a number. It could be more or less. So this map will continue with that nice presentation till it come up with the number of how many active shooter events that we have. Again, this is not your normal robbery that involves shooting, or a child that was shot down in DC for a certain incident during maybe a drug-related event or anything like that. This is involving only an active shooter scenario. A person, he or she, was coming after a certain organization or a grocery store or a concert. And you come up with 464 cases since then, and this number has been increasing. And we've been exceeding this number every year than the past year. Next slide. Right, number of deaths. And we're going to go another next and next in this. So how this number of deaths is very important, because if I have a person who's involved in shooting group of people, I'd like to have a plan to prevent or at least minimize the death number, right? So to do that, I need to try to control 2 things. The first one is how quickly the police arrive, and we're going to talk about this quick. So you in corporate America, or you in a house of worship, and something happened. What's the first thing that we do if something happened? We're going to call the police. We're going to call 911. So what if I had an argument with my wife in the morning, and can I just call her first to say, hey, I'm sorry about the argument, I love you, we got someone here with a gun and he's shooting at us? I'm asking you. Call the police first. This is very important, and the scenario that I'm telling you, it actually happened. The minute that you're making the phone call, that first phone call that you have to make, you need to make it fast, and you need to make it from a safe environment. And when I'm talking about safe environment, I'm talking about a safe environment for you when you actually safe to make that phone call to the police. That is important, because you happen to be maybe the youngest guy, or the oldest guy, or the smartest guy, or the luckiest guy that happened to get out of this place first. So that opportunity, a lot of other people might be still trapped inside. They're waiting on your help. And the first thing that to do to help them is to calling the police. Why? Because that police response, average time of a police response in the United States is 3 minutes. How long is 3 minutes? Long time. People die. You know how long it took them to respond in the Annapolis Gazette newspaper? 60 seconds, 1 minute. How many people died? 5 people. in 60 seconds. So the police response is important. Your share is to make that phone call. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. If you call the police at any time, do you want to know details? How many people involved? Where are you guys? How many people are the suspects? Can you give us description? Do you want to collect information? FYI, if you're calling 911 and hang up, do we respond? Yes, we do. So the minimum is to call 911. But since we all have cell phones, and cell phones are not attached to an address versus a landline. A landline in a church, it will be related to the address of the church. Make sense? So we have what we call a CAD system. A CAD system is a software program where if you make the phone call to call the police from the landline, the phone that you have in the church, we know it is Emmanuel Church located at this location in Way Avenue, right? So we know, at least even if you hang up, we know how to respond. But if you're calling from your cell phone is not attached to an address, something to keep in mind. So at least the first thing that you need to provide is the address. Minimum is what you need to provide is the address. If you can do more, by all means, you can provide description of the suspect or suspects. You can provide how many people that they trapped in. You can tell them the story of what happened. You can give them whatever the description that you want. Second part is target availability. What is my target? I'm the bad guy. I'm the shooter who's coming here to shoot at people. Who's my target? Examples. Is my target is the pastor? I'm sorry, pastor, I'm just using you as an example. Is my target is the pastor that I'm not in agreement with because he or she refused to give me money for the second time? That's a problem for me. He made that decision. He is my target, but I'm willing to take down everyone else who's going to be between me and my target. So that's the target availability. Versus, I'll give you the corporate America example. I'm the ex-employee that was fired yesterday. The manager, my supervisor, my HR lady, whoever the person is fired me is my target. I'm going back to them. They can't fire me. Why? But how about my child support? I get some expenses to pay. How about my rent? How about the mortgage that I'm paying? You know, think about the psychological part that people go through. I'm going to have to go and face them. They can't do that to me. So is this target is available or not? So that's the target availability. How long it will take me to go or to hit that target? That could be longer, it could be shorter. How many people will stop between me and my target? So keep that part in mind. Versus, I hate all African Americans in Buffalo scenario. What happened in Buffalo grocery store? And everyone is a target. That guy was shooting at everybody. They all in an African American neighborhood. And anyone that I'm shooting at in that case will be considered a target that it is available out and open for me. Next slide. 3 minutes, we talked about that already, is the average response time from the police department. Next slide. So you're responding in the middle of a disaster. You have a lot going on, right? Next slide. You got a lot of stress factors that's happening. Maybe you've never been exposed to anything like this before. Next slide. Next one again. And the last one. So you're struggling. Wait a second. But I'm in the house of God. I'm here to pray. Or the corporate America scenario is, I'm just here to earn some money because I need to make some living to support myself and my family. This should not be happening to me. That's the denial part. This cannot be happening in a church environment. People got no respect for that church. That's unbelievable, right? And then when you realize, well, this is really happening, it hits you, right? And then you're scratching your head because this scenario is nothing that I've been through in the past. Well, yeah, that was a gunshot that I heard. And I see that guy was actually shooting at people in the hallway. And now I ran away. What I'm supposed to do, I don't know. No one told me what I'm supposed to do, right? Shall I hide somewhere or shall I continue running? Options. You're trying to make a decision. And then finally, you come up to the decisive moment, you're actually making a decision to do something. Whatever that something is, running away and calling the police or hiding somewhere because it's nice and quiet, or even maybe have to fight someone. Next slide. So you're on a split road right here. You're still deliberating and you try to think about what you're going to do. Next one. Next one. And another one. So we don't want you to have that lizard brain. We don't want you to freeze, right? If you're doing nothing, that means you are freezing. We don't want people to freeze. We want you to do something, right? Because we've been giving a gift, right? That gift is that we can think. And we would like to come up with options. What is the options that I have? And I need to do one of those options. Next slide. So in your human brain, you got an option of fighting. Next. You got an option of running, because I would like to run. And when I'm running away from the threat. And that's important to know. Because if I'm going to tell everyone, hey, we need to leave this place, and assuming that you already know where I'm standing, I know that there's 2 exit signs, one on my right and one on my left, right? And I know there's another 2 exit signs in the back. So when I have to leave this place, I did my scanning already when I'm coming in this location to figure out if I have to run, I know what is my running exits, because that could be an option, right? I'm not freezing. That's not an option. Next slide. Got a lot going on with this. Look around at us. And when I say us, the group of people that we have in this room. Some of us are younger, if I'm allowed to say that in a polite way. Some of us are older. Some of us maybe, if I'm allowed to say that, in better shape than others, right? Some of us can run, maybe, because they happen to be the Ethiopian runners. And I'm only mentioning the Ethiopian because I was told by the pastor that they go to one of the other levels here. Or some of us, my knee is killing me. I cannot run. You know, I need to go to the closest point. Next slide. So what do you do when you have a scenario like this? If you happen to be, and I'm going to generalize here a little more. If you happen to be in an office environment, or if you happen to be in that grocery shopping scenario, or if you happen to be in a concert, or if you happen to be in the nightclub, or if you happen to be in a church environment, at least you want to calm yourself. You want to make sure that I have a reason to survive. So we tell each other in the police department, what is our goal every day is, I'd like to go home to my wife and kids, right? I'm not any better than you. You'd like to go home to your loved ones, to your wife, to your husband, to your kids, to your mom, to your dad. You have a reason to live. Think about it from that point. We're not giving up in ourselves, right? We would like to survive this regardless, in any which way. I need to control my breath. And maybe I need to continue to maintain a good shape. I need to know my ability. Maybe I'm not the running guy. Maybe I'm the black belt in jiu-jitsu guy that I'll be able to fight also, right? I happen to be the guy with that city skills. Or maybe I know everything about this location, that I also know my hiding spots. So let me compare corporate America scenario here again back to you versus houses of worship. So what does corporate America does? Hey, you a new hire. You just get hired. Congratulations. You're starting next week. Okay. Day one will be the HR day. HR day, we're going to sit you down. We're going to talk about your benefits, your insurance plan, right? Your contract, whatever, the perks that you have. But also it's orientation day. And I'm going to show you in orientation day where is your office. And I'm going to also show you maybe where is the cafeteria that you can have your lunch break in. And maybe also I'm going to show you where's the bathrooms, right? Do we do any showing? I'm asking you. In houses of worship? No. When you bring people in, everyone is coming in for one reason to this place, right? You're coming in to sit down and listen to words of wisdom from the Bible, from the Torah, from the Quran, from the Buddhists, from the Sikh community, whatever the house of worship is. You're coming here for a reason. But as a school, as a church or a house of worship administration, do we provide orientation? No. Can we provide orientation? I think we should. Can I do a show? Let me show you around when you come in. Do I know everyone who's sitting down in a church environment? Probably not. Do I know most of the people in a corporate America environment? Probably. I know at least the people that I'm working with. I know some people, right? So that's the comparison between the two. Get yourself to know your options before you come in a position that I don't know what is my options. And when I'm talking options, do I know places to exit from within my work or church environment? Can I apply this even to my ability to scan those locations and exit signs if I'm going to be going to a concert, or if I'm going to be going to a nightclub, if I'm going to be shopping in a grocery store, or even at the mall? Can I recognize those locations? Because I'd like to know if something happened. Hey, if you're taking your wife or your husband or your son or your daughter or your brother or sister out for dinner tonight, and you have reservation in a nice restaurant, and you get there on time, and you got someone, she's asking you, oh, table for two? Do we have reservation? Well, how about this table right here? Do you need to listen to them? You don't have to like the table that they offered you. You can choose another table on the other side, where maybe your back is to the wall, or maybe you have a full vision of the exits of that restaurant, or maybe you have another vision to the bathroom area of that restaurant, because that's a door that I don't know who's inside and I don't know who's going to be coming out of that door. We're not planning to create detectives or police officers out of you, but we're only giving you some common sense for your own protection. You need to train your mind, and you can train your mind every day, wherever you go in any scenario, when you're shopping, when you're going to a school or a college or university, or when you go into the house of worship, or when you go to your job. And you can apply this scenario. So keep that part in your mind at the same time. Next slide. All right, so within a church or within a corporate America environment or within any environment, sometimes we have the option to practice. Can I practice an evacuation drill within a house of worship? I can. Do I or can I practice an evacuation drill within corporate America? I should. Do I have a plan for that? I should have a plan. Can I only have a plan that's put in the shelf, that's collecting dust, that no one knows about it because it's a secret? That doesn't count. Your plan needs to be practiced. In the school environment, and you know what I'm talking about, they have to practice that evacuation. They need to know how to get out of that building if they have to get out of that building. Same thing will happen in corporate America. Do we practice that within houses of worship or not? You know the answer more than me. All right? Next slide. All right, so when you get to that denial phase because you heard that gunshot, don't deny. Just try to realize and accept the fact that, yes, oh, I just listened. This sounds like an unusual sound. It sounds like gunshots. I need to do something about it. So make that decision. Next slide, and don't worry about the noise. You don't do this. Not in corporate America, not in even a house of worship. God help those who help themselves. You got to help yourself when it comes up to the scenario, right? Yes, you are not in the house of God, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to sit down in the baby position, in a praying position, and I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm hoping that when I open my eyes, everything is going to go away. It doesn't work that way. You don't hide this way under a desk, exposing yourself, hoping that things is not going to happen to you. Next slide. Next one. And another two. And another one. So this is your options that you have. You can avoid the threat completely by running away from the threat. You heard a gunshot, you went out, or you saw from where your location is a person with a gun. What is my option? Am I close to an exit door? Hint, hint. Maybe this door is the closest door to me. Where is the threat coming from? I'm asking myself, is that guy with the gun coming in from this door? Well, maybe I need to go to the other door. You're having this practice in your head at the same time. How many people that I have in here? If this hall is full, can I have helpers? And this is a house of worship plan. Can I have those younger people, I'm pointing out to you maybe, that maybe that they're willing to help? Can I ask those people in advance, hey, in case if something happened, are you willing to help people out? Can you direct people out? Some houses of worship, and I don't know if it happens in a church here or not, but some houses of worship will also operate as a school. You will have a Catholic school, you will have a Bible study school, and it might also involve little kids. How you got little kids? What do? Do you have the option of hide? Can you shelter in place? What is the policy in Montgomery County Public School when it comes up to the school system? You don't give them the option to run, just FYI, because the schools are locked in Montgomery County. You cannot get in that door to the school or outside of the school unless you actually get allowed to be in. So keep that part in mind. So the school is a lock-in system. Who is in the school? Staff, administration, and students. Who is with the students? Teachers. Teachers are controlling the lockdown. Oh, we're going to close that door. We're going to actually completely hide in the classroom. And what we need to do, we're going to turn the lights off. Hey, if the teacher have a cell phone, I need to turn my cell phone volume down because I don't want it to be beeping or ringing or anything like that. And I'm going to act like I'm not even here. This happened during the video. If you remember when they were trying to get in and they turned the lights off and they did not make any noise. This happened and was very helpful in Virginia Tech scenario where that shooter kept going to different classrooms, tried to open it, only managed to get into the unlocked doors. So if that door was locked, he didn't bother. He decided to go to the next one. So you're locking your doors by avoiding the threat, or you're running away completely from the threat, or maybe I'm the black belt jiu-jitsu guy, young enough, and I felt like I'm in a good close position, and I show you the example of a pastor that was involved, that he actually, when the guy was loading his gun, when a chance of a malfunction happened, he jumped in him with the help of other people. They actually decided to hold him down till the police showed up. Next slide. Next one. So you avoid by running away, you're just leaving as soon as you can. Remember what we talked about, you already know your exit and you're gonna dial that first phone call is you're making 911. Next. Next slide. If you want to deny access to that shooter, you happen to be, because you know your environment, you want to lock yourself in a door. And I love those two doors because they're going to save me sometimes. Those two specific doors right there. One of them, if you notice the hinges of the door, the one in the right, my right, the hinges of the door are from the outside. Means what? Means I need to pull this door open, right? So that door is not a push, it's a pull open, that one in the right. Versus the one in the left, I don't see those hinges outside, so I need to push this door open. Well, this sounds like silly thing, you know, what's so important about it? It is important to know, if I'm getting through that door that says kitchen, that door is a push door. So this is the door that maybe I need to barricade myself. I'm gonna grab all the heavy stuff and put it behind that door to slow down that shooter. I'm going to turn that light off that I have in the kitchen. And hint, hint, it says kitchen. Maybe there's knives to defend myself in that kitchen. Would it be appropriate to say that? I have no idea, but that's a possibility. How about that other door? That other door is the pull door. So it's not going to help me unless I have a locking mechanism. Maybe I have a key to that door, or maybe there's a lock that I'll be able to lock it from inside, and I'll still follow up the same concept of turning the lights off. Or maybe I cannot lock that door. Do I have a belt? Do I have a rope? Can I just duck under because it's staying away from this opening glass door? Can I turn the lights off? Can I pull it with my belt just to keep it tight? All the options that you want. Next slide. We talked about the barricading when it comes up to the example of the doors. Door stops. We'll talk about that quickly. Next slide. So what's a door stop? It's a piece of plastic, rubber, that you're using with those two doors behind you, I believe, to keep those two doors open. Can you put that door slide behind the door in the lift, which is the push door that says kitchen on it? If you're inside, yes, you can. Would it help you? It will help, because it will prevent the person who's pushing that door in the pushing scenario from getting inside. Even if I put a lot of heavy stuff to barricade, this will be helpful? Yes, it will be helpful. Is it a fire code violation? It is. Can I break the rules about fire code violation because I need to survive? Yes, you can, right? Just to make this clear. Next slide. We talked about the ropes or the belts just to hold that door, you know, when it comes up to the doors that will actually open, with the one that you see the hinges from outside. Next one. This is a heavy duty, you know, way to just lock doors. It's a little more commercial. Again, a lot of people, they don't want to have this as a permanent option because it's a fire code violation in some scenario. You need to give the people an option to push doors, like those pushing exit doors. You're pushing their way out when it comes up to an exit door. Next slide. So that's what if you're planning to fight, what kind of set skill again you have? How are you going to deny that person from accomplishing his goal? Can you grab their gun or not? Can you just attack them from the back? Do I have to hold their hand with have the gun? Can you do it or you cannot do it? Hey, can I assist my resources in houses of worship? What did that mean? How many doctors we have here? Maybe none, but I ask. Can I ask this in a house of worship environment? I can. How many EMT guys that we have here? Maybe none, but maybe there is one. How many people that they trained for CPR here? Maybe one. I see a lady raising her hand in the back. Do I know that as a pastor? Hey, ma'am, are you willing to help in case if something happened? Can I make a list of my resources? Can I look for those people with my resources? Can I invite police officers here? Hey, any police officers here? Any guys with prior military here that they actually managed to hear gun fights and battles in the past that maybe will be my fighting guys? Can I Do a check mark and know my resources. This is another way to look at it. Can I do this in corporate America? You know, corporate America, they may be a little concerned about more than houses of worship, about liability. Am I allowed to use this guy? Is it going to be a work-related injury if they get injured or not? Well, you can always do your documentation. You can have a consent piece of paper. You can have a waiver, whatever you want to call it. Are you guys willing to help in case if anything happened? Since you have the military training, the prior experience, the CPR, the EMT, the medic, if it's okay that you're willing to help, can you sign this piece of paper that you're willing to help, waiving anything to happen? Maybe yes, maybe no. Can you even ask? Is it okay to ask? You have a whole legal department in HR for that when it comes up to corporate America. When it comes up to houses of worship environment, I can say this. I'm assuming that everyone is willing to help. Next slide. So this is the options that you have. You're running, you're hiding, you're fighting. You know about your hiding spots. Hiding spots. We talk about orientation. We talk about introducing people to your work, corporate America environment, to your controlled environment within even the house of worship, because that's the church that you're planning to come to every Sunday, right? You happen to be living in the neighborhood. Can we tell them what is inside each room? Are they allowed to get to those rooms or not? If this is a closet, did this closet have enough space for how many people do you think that they could be getting inside? Can I lock this door from inside because it's lockable or not lockable? Can I introduce my congregation to all of those options? Within corporate America, can I make a safe room? What's a safe room concept? A concept of a room that will have a solid door. A door that will protect everyone from inside. It's not going to show that much of a light like with the windows that we have over here or like the windows that we have in the back. A door that maybe I don't even know if I'm passing by that door, assuming that I turn the lights off, assuming that I silence my phones. I don't know if someone inside it or not. A door that's lockable from inside. A door that might even in that room have a fridge with some water, just in case, because I'm in corporate America. I'm a good company of the top 500 organizations, and I'm willing to offer this as a perk to the people. A door where I actually have a landline phone, just in case for those people who may not have their own cell phones to dial 911 from at the same time. That's another concept, and it's up to you if you make one or not. Next slide. What you do is important. Next one. When the police arrive, if they're arriving in the work location, the church location, we don't know you. We don't know what happened. We received a phone call from the first person who left the place, who told us, give us some descriptions. But we, because we're trying to be careful, we don't know who's involved. Is it one suspect? Is it more than one suspect? And if you remember the video, you saw people that they're hiding. They have a laptop that they're about to hit everyone that they comes out of the door. Well, the police is coming in. Put it down, put it down. Let me see your hands. Show them your hands. Make sure that you don't have weapons. You're actually seeing a guy in uniform with guns out. This is not your suspect. You know that because you either saw your suspect or because that guy in uniform have a badge next to it. So follow the command and don't move. Next slide. So our part is to stop the killing. What did that mean? It means we need to stop the threat. If that active shooter, hint from the name, still active, still killing people, what is our number one task? Is to stop him from killing people. And in that process, we might overlook a few things. To you, it might look bad. We are crossing over injured bodies without stopping to treat those injured bodies. That's kind of rude. You don't respect those guys. You don't want to treat them. Well, we have to worry that this guy might continue causing more damage and shooting and killing or injuring more people. So we need to stop him first, and we need to get everyone treated second. So don't feel weird about that part. So we need to stop the threat. That's the most important part. And we need to get people out, as you remember from seeing the video. Anyone who's healthy, who's not injured, who can walk, get them out, evacuate them, because we don't know how we're going to deal with this guy. Is it going to be a shooting at him and he's shooting at us, or what's happening? Next slide. Again, you need to know your resources, and medics are coming. When we call fire rescue, when you dial 911 in an active shooter scenario, who's coming? The police, the fire, the ambulance, the medic, everybody's coming. Who's coming in first? Only police. Why? To make the scene secure, to stop the threat first. Once we stop the threat, the medic's going to come in. The ambulance, if it needs to transport someone, will be coming in, but not before that. So we got a little plan to do, and help us to do it at the same time. Just show your hand and cooperate and follow the orders to evacuate if you've been asked for it. Next slide. Again, we talked about this, if you have people, if you have resources, know what they're capable to do. If they train, if they can give CPR, first aid, anything. Understand the resources that you have within the houses of worship, especially. I think you have plenty of resources. You just need to recognize it. You need to get involved in that dialogue of, you know what? We're going to pray only for half an hour today, and we're going to use the second half an hour to talk about surviving today. Next slide. This is important, and this applies to corporate America, but it also applies to houses of worship. If a shooting happened today within a work environment or within a house of worship, do you think all of us can come back to the same place next day or next week? Maybe some of us will have a little different memory. Maybe some of us will need to offer them some kind of help. Psychological help, social worker. Do I have this? Maybe corporate America have it. Can I have it as a church at the same time? Maybe it's among my audience that they have that set of skill, that they are social workers, or they have some, psychological degrees that they will be able to help me with that. Do I need to shut down and just do some cleaning and some washing? Maybe I need to do that at the same time and get everyone ready to come back. Next slide. This is pretty much the finish of it. And next, that's pretty much the active shooter presentation. All what I told you is nothing new. I ask you to practice it. You can practice this every day. Apply it to your grocery shopping. Apply it to your restaurant night outs with your husband or your wife. Apply it to your vacationing time when you're going to a hotel environment, a resort environment, whatever the vacation that you're going to. And apply it to the houses of worship if you're a frequent person to the church or to the synagogue or to the mosque. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We're now going to have a period of questions. If you have any questions, we have a microphone set up right here so that the folks on the stream can hear you. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Come to the mic.
Defend. I mean, I know that there are classes for using canes as weapons, but I haven't had that. And in this setting, I don't have anywhere to hide.
That's not true. So what's the question?
If the person were right out in the north, right on the other side of those doors,
Yeah.
hiding under a chair is not going to help.
Head along the hallway. And this is something we're going to talk about for our congregation, along these stairs.
See, this is something that I've just learned about this building. That
So now we're back to the orientation part that
Right.
we talked about, that how I get my congregation, similar to the orientation day when it comes up to corporate America, to get familiar with the building, the structure that I'm providing to them.
And I have another one, which is, I suspect other people will think is a silly question.
No such a thing, by the way.
Yeah, there are. Hands up. Okay, you want my hands up?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to walk?
Oh, that's a good question. In your scenario, I will do the hands up first, and I'll wait till being instructed to walk.
Am I allowed to put my cane up there to let them know that I...
You can, or if you think you can drop the cane completely in the floor, it might be a good idea.
My concern with dropping it on the floor, which I could pick up, that's not the problem, is that they would want me to walk away from it. And while I can walk on a level surface like this,
Yeah.
once we get to stairs or out on the yard,
Yeah.
I will fall.
So 2 answers for this, and I recommended having volunteers, helpers. So in this sitting that we have right here, and knowing what I know about the exits, I need to have helpers, and maybe those helpers will be the younger people, and maybe those younger helpers will be in charge of how I'm going to divide each one of the 2 sections. This is a divided sections already. I got one section on my right hand, another one on my left hand. How I'm dividing this group? Am I dividing them by front and rear, where the rear people can be closer to the rear exit and the front people will be closer to the front exit? And this is just assuming that I don't know the direction of my shooter, where is he or she coming from. Maybe I can do that. The person who's volunteering this will be able to help, who might be familiar with your certain case right here. Can I help you out at the same time? Yes, I can. Good, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
First, this has been very, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, this has been very helpful.
Thank you.
Very helpful. One time, after an incident at a church, I was sitting there and thinking, oh my God, if this happened, I'm going to hide behind that curtain. So that shows you that I learned a lot today. Just want to know what's behind these 2 doors.
Okay.
Closets.
So that's orientation again. And I guessed it as closets, if you remember me saying that. But I don't know if the doors from inside, can I lock those doors or not? Or maybe if there is a space inside those closets, or they're full of, supplies or anything like that. I have no idea. It will be nice, maybe, to tell the congregation, hey, these are closets, and here's what's inside. Maybe one person will fit in here. Those doors are lockable, or those doors are not lockable, just to give the people the information as a part of the options. I know this door is this kitchen. I don't know what the other door is saying at the same time, so you need to introduce that environment to the people, since this is the environment that you... Go ahead, sir.
In our church, like other churches, we have a vestibule or an open space before you get into the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that space be attended? Because there's the main entrance, there's the vestibule, and then there is the sanctuary. At this time, on most occasions, the vestibule is unattended. It's just an open space, literature and whatnot. Would you recommend that either regularly or at some point that space be attended by someone? Because the first person at the door to the sanctuary will be the ushers, of course. But there's no one in that open space. Just want to know what you think about that relative to our discussion today.
So the answer is, I cannot recommend anything because I don't know your area, to be honest with you. And the second answer is, that's a decision that you need to make. What you are allowing as a head of the congregation, what you would like to allow your congregation to have access to. I don't know the answer. Maybe the pastor will need to determine this. Maybe there's some stuff will be off play. Maybe he will tell you and maybe show you that those closets are full of equipment, packages, whatever, boxes that it will not allow people in. So the answer is, you get to determine that part, and always think about exits scenario, and always think about people that cannot be able to run. What is the best scenario for those people? Do I have a safe room for them or not? That's the quick answer. But you get to call this shot. Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Besides the guns, what's the most used, not weapon, but self-defense instrument that you could recommend? Or like, for instance, fire extinguisher, if it's a fire.
Yeah.
Is any self-defense instrument that you could recommend to have on site just for that purpose?
So that's a good question. The answer is the church job is really not to provide self-defense instruments, right? The church job is to give you related words of God's, right? Can they do that? If they want to. Can they make the policy for it? I don't know what's the policy of each church. So I don't want to give you the wrong answer. You are in a private property. This is not considered a public property. Same like what you have in corporate America. You make your own rules. What do that mean? Can I say, put a sign outside to make it equal for everyone? This is a gun-free zone. No guns allowed. Can I say that? I can, right? Can I say, except law enforcement? I can say that. Or except law enforcement in uniform. Whatever the rules that I would like to make, I'd like to post to make it good for public to read at the same time. And by the way, posting rules or posting the policy of the church is helpful because it gives me as a bad guy a sense of, man, those guys get everything covered. You know, they said trespassers will be prosecuted. A fancy term that we use sometimes. Can we put this in a sign for the public? Yes, we can. Can you bring your own self-defense? Well, I got a pepper spray in my pocket right here for just in case scenario. Does some people carry it? Yes, some people carry it. Are you subject to a policy by the church? I don't know what's the policy, but back again, it is up to the church administration to post that policy, and whatever that they're deciding to do, we still need to comply with. But back to answer your question, can I use my environment of whatever, any weapons? So I have a nice stick right here that I can use at the same time, and it will do the job of a baseball bat. Maybe. Can I use this as an option? Maybe. Can I use a chair as an option? Can I tie a person with a cord instead of using a rope? Think a little out of the box or what you have in your pocket. Anyone else? Ma'am. I'll get back to you in a second.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Sandra Johnson.
How are you, Sandra?
And you talked about phone. The church phone would be the best way to connect to 911 because of the police department, I believe, because it has the address of the church. But our individual cell phones, I believe I heard you said, would not be good. They will because it's not connected to an address.
Okay, so
but I thought my question is that I thought it was traceable as long as you can trace the cell phone, as long as it's on.
So that's a good question, and the answer to it is, can I track a person's cell phone to locate them? So you calling 911. You did not have the option or the opportunity to give me a lot of information. The line got disconnected. I'm just making up a scenario here to help you out. Can I track that phone? Hey, help, someone is shooting at us. And the line got disconnected. And I don't know the location because it's not a landline phone. That's what you're pointing out too. Can I track that phone? The answer is yes, I can track the phone. Do I need to have certain information to track the phone? Yeah, I need to know the phone number, which is maybe our dispatcher can find that out because she will receive that phone call. But I also need to know who's the service provider. Are you a T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T? So I can call them because I'm not allowed to do this randomly to track everyone that you have in here. I don't have that right, believe it or not, right? I need to call that service provider and tell them I need to get this information because there is an emergency. I need to find out where is this lady exactly. Can you pinpoint what is her location? So that is a process. So when you're calling from your cell phone, I ask you to remember to call from a safe environment. When you're already out of the danger zone, you're making that first phone call to the police because you are very important source of information after getting one more time to that safe environment to make the phone call to help the other people that they're still inside. And you want to provide as much information as you can. And I don't want you to hang up because you are my only source of information. And it's going to be difficult for me even to find out the address. And that's why the first thing that you would like to see is what is the situation and what is the location.
Okay, so orientation would be excellent because I didn't know anything about where the office or church phone would be to get to. So my cell phone would be in my hands. And as you say, I may not be able to state where I am, who I am, and
unless you want a safe environment.
Right. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
I want to add the text to 911 option. Did you mention that, Sheree?
No. So that's a great option. Listen
So
to that.
It's very important to be quiet, right? We're encouraging you to keep your voices down, to turn off microphone.
Let me go.
Come here to us.
So we're encouraging you all to keep your voices down and not be heard by the shooter, right? So we recently developed the text to 911 option. And when doing so, put your screen, the brightness all the way down because we want you to have your phones off, but it's another option. If you can't speak, you can text. And you're just gonna go into the text line, text 911. You can give the dispatcher as much information as you would over the phone. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So Montgomery County have that option. You can text 911. Can you text information? Yes. Can you text, hey, help, I'm in this location and there's someone is shooting us? That is the two important information. A shooter who's active and the location of the information. Cars already started coming to you. If you're safe or in a safe environment or can continue texting, text whatever the other information that you can, suspect information, suspect description, and so on. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this presentation. That was really overdue. I'm thinking, God forbid, for example, we have someone that is already here. We cannot, the person is looking at you. You didn't mention interacting with the shooter. Would it be part of the defense aspect since we cannot do anything? And I suppose if everyone would pick up a chair and start screaming and running towards him, I think he would be frozen for this in this scenario. So would you recommend interacting as a last resort with the shooter?
So I give you an option of fighting. And that option of fighting, does it involve anything or any form of fighting? Yes. If you're fighting because you got a good set of skills, because you know a certain self-defense, that's great. If you're fighting because I'm grabbing the next chair because this guy is not paying attention, and that happened recently, and this guy have his gun jammed, he's trying to exchange magazines, and that also happened, and I grab that chair and just throw it in him. And I decide to attack or have more than one person going over him. Can I do that? Yes, you can. All the decisions that you're making, it is based on the situation, and it's going to be a judgmental decision based on what you're dealing with and based on each one's condition. Maybe I'm not in a condition of fighting. Maybe I'm a little older. Maybe I'm a little too young and I'm the one person that this is crazy. Maybe I just want to sit down and cry because I have not been exposed to this environment before. So you need to act in the best way of your interest that will get you to survive. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm going to tell you do whatever it takes and take a positive action of the three options that I give you of running or hiding or actually fighting. There is no order for this. Do whatever it takes, but do something to get you to survive. Anybody else? Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This has been extremely informative.
Great.
My name is Peggy. One question that I had, say for example, it's kind of like a piggyback on the question previously. At our church, we have the vestibule, and then we have the two doors with the handles on it, that usually there's an usher sitting there, but they can be locked from the inside, like when everybody's in the sanctuary area. Should we lock those doors or take those handles off so that the person, the shooter, whomever, wouldn't have access to pull the door open? They wouldn't know that, you know, because the handle would be gone. Because right now there's handles on there that says pull.
Yeah.
And then secondly, say for example, if like right now with the pandemic, what we're doing, we're still doing the contact tracing and all that. Once everyone's in, we start our service at 10 a.m. So everyone's inside the church, in the sanctuary. The person's in the church already. We've secured all the doors, as we're doing right now. In that situation, what would you suggest should take place? Okay, he's inside. Now he sat there for about 10, 15 minutes, and now he starts, you know, doing whatever he came to do. Those two things.
So again, that's a scenario, and I'm not going to give you an answer for each scenario, but I don't know what kind of environment that you're actually in. Am I a big fan of locking doors? I'm not, to be honest with you. But hey, maybe you're going to tell me if you're locking that rear door, if that's what you're talking about, you still have 1, 2, 3, 4 exits doors that is actually, it's only from inside. So those doors, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they're locked from the outside. They're not going to allow people in, but they can be pushed out to leave this place. So if you have that option, you have access to exit. You did provide access to exit to your congregation inside. So if you're locking that rear door, maybe that is an okay idea. I don't know based on what you have. I'm not a big fan, since you mentioned that part, of having two next to each other, and this happens normally in a two doors entrance or exit, two next to each other handles or door handles. Why is that? Because if I'm a bad guy, I'm going to grab a stick, as simple as a stick, and put it between those two door handles, and that will prevent people from coming out. And I'm going to get inside in another door, and now this door is completely, or this exit is completely out of play. We don't recommend, this is something that comes up with when you're doing a security assessment for your place or your house of worship. This is something that normally comes in play, that it's nothing that's recommended by any security assessment that will give you that information. This is a disadvantage. It sounds like you're providing service because people, hey, need to have a handle to open the door. Put one, but don't put two, because that two is going to create an issue. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. She'll go first, I'm sorry, and then you'll go after her.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you all for this information, because it is much needed. I'm retired DC police, and I worship in a church in Prince George's County. And this is just a suggestion for pastor and people. What we did, we ended up hiring PG County officers to help us with security. Now, we do have our own security in the church, but we ended up hiring county officers to help us with the perimeter as well as the inside of the church. Also, what we did was to kind of help us with security is to have greeters. at the front door when we come in. Those greeters are able to tell security if they see someone that might be, strange or looks out of place, maybe that's not a member and could possibly cause a problem. We have greeters that our security team works with. And so those are just a couple of suggestions. Now, we also have security for our pastor. I am one of those security retired security officers for our pastor, because we're living in a day and time where our churches, unfortunately, our churches do need security, armed security, not just regular civilian security, but armed security.
Okay. Thank you. So these are great options. I'm not gonna, tell the pastor if they need to hire or give them that instruction or not, but it is an option. It depends on the number of people that they attend the church. It depends on the location. It depends on the threat level. It depends if there's a personal threat to the pastor, God forbid, for example, or not. But those are decisions that you could be made. Can we have a communication devices, a walkie-talkie between those greeters and these volunteers? Can we have some of them inside with the doors, inside the structure, and also outside in the parking area to watch people and observe? Hey, there's a guy that he's acting really suspicious, and he's wearing long coats, and it's 90 degrees outside. That's a little. Again, I'm only analyzing the actual behavior of the person. He get different clothes that's out of the season. Would you just keep an eye on him? And he's coming inside. He's about to walk down to the church. So I get that communication established, and I'm watching with my observation at the same time. This could be done through the greeters, or it could be the point that she's making. The biggest deterrent says you have a cruiser outside in your parking lot. Hey, well, that could be by itself a way to deter people. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much. I would not have my here. Okay. So thank you so much for the session.
Anytime.
Very important. And thank you to Pastor Gil too. What you have described here, I lived it 3 months ago upstairs. And as I was seeing the video, I was reviewing those in my mind, but not to a higher level of gun erupting inside. It was 3 months ago, Sunday morning. I happened to be the pianist, the worship leader. We were preparing for the worship, my daughter, my wife, Fritzi. She's the one who just stuck here, my daughter and my son. So we're inside, and all of a sudden, somebody erupted in. Very mad, making noise. At first, I was a bit scared. It is a two-door room. The first room, when you get inside, on your right, so we are very accessible to anybody intruder. The guy getting started yell, very mad, and I didn't know that he had a gun or not. And I was thinking what to do. I was not prepared. I caught by surprise, and the only thing I said, I just interact with that young man and say, "God bless you, sir. Welcome home." That's the only thing that came up in my mind. So I was so fortunate. He sat down a little bit, moved around, yelling, saying a lot of stuff. And after that, I was so lucky. I was looking, saying, what am I going to do? What are we going to do? Because we're trapped. There's no way out. So this is the reason why I intervene here, to ask you what is the best case scenario in this kind of situation.
So it all depends. So this gentleman decided to use what we call a de-escalating technique. He wants to cool this guy off. He wants to, oh man, this man is a little angry here. Wait a second. Did he have any guns in him? According to the statement, no, he did not. So his option is he wanted to cool him off. Is it a good option? It is a great option, right? It's like, welcome to the house of God. God bless you. I'm showing hospitality to that angry person that's coming in. Time out here. Can I call the police in this scenario? In this scenario that he just gave us, Can I call the police just to cover my back? Please do, next time. If there's any harm of calling the police anytime? No harm. How many times that I can call the police from the same location a day? As many as you want. Can 2 or 3 people happen to be, because they don't know that who's calling and who's not calling, they happen to be calling the police at the same time because, oh man, I see him interacting with that guy. This is going to go bad. Let me make a phone call, 911, and call the police right away. Even if it's gone and done by the time the police comes in, right? At least you did your first homework. He took the matter further in his hand and he felt like, oh, let me show this guy some hospitality. Cool him down. De-escalate his anger. And it worked. He asked him to sit down and nothing happened. So that was a good scenario. Yes, you can do that. But we're talking in our bad or worse scenario here about a person who's already coming out with a gun in his hand. But yes, you can do that. Assuming anyone else, any other? Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir?
How are you, sir?
All right, good. Thanks. This has been great, very
Thank
informative. Just wanted to follow up with this sister was talking about. I'm retired too.
Yeah.
Graduate FBI, VA law enforcement. One of the things I wanted to address for larger ministries, because we have a large ministry up in Baltimore. We have our own police department up there.
Yeah.
We work with the sheriff department up there as well as Baltimore Police Department. But for smaller churches, which I have church that I am, I'm assistant pastor here
Nice.
in Silver Spring. What we are doing is build a safety team. So I'm part of the sheepdog ministry where that's what we're doing. But one of the things I want to ask you about, because she addressed the issue about being, having armed people within the ministry, is House Bill 781. Are you guys familiar with that bill that was brought up in 2019 in Annapolis for religious
Tell me
order?
about it. Maybe
Okay,
I
Bill, it's a Parishioner Protection Act of 2019. What that bill says is, and allows within the church community, there's a 501c.
I know it's a 501c.
Right. So what it allows is that if you have a HQL, if you already have your handgun permit and so forth, and the church approves that, you're allowed to bring that upon the premises of that church.
Yeah.
The issue, what I'm trying to find out about the bill, I just seen having, I have a copy of the bill, but I don't know if the bill actually went through Annapolis. I know proposal of it and so forth and what it covers. Yeah. And that's one of the things I wanted to find out from you guys.
Yeah.
Are you?
So the answer is, it will depend on what is the policy that the church is providing.
Right.
If the church is saying, hey, this is a gun-free zone,
right,
no one is allowed to come in with a gun except law enforcement, or except those who have a permit and the administration knows about them.
Gotcha.
Whatever the policy that the church would like to do, can I use you in case of a bad scenario?
Right.
I should be like grabbing you. So I got a true story for you since you mentioned that part. I was praying at a mosque in Virginia, and I happened to be the crazy guy, crazy officers who carries his gun anywhere he goes to, because I can, right? I'm inside a mosque in Virginia, and the minute that I was done praying, we get a little picky about what we wear off duty. Those guys know what I'm talking about. Like, is it loose enough so we'll hide my handgun, or maybe sometimes it gets a little tight so actually we'll show it. I don't want to show it, or maybe I'm just gaining weight. I have no idea. It could be all the above. But one of the people in the congregation said, "Hey, come with me." He came to me and said, "Come with me," and I'm listening. It looks like you have a gun here. This is a gun-free zone. I loved it. This is the security team of the mosque. I was like, man, those guys are smart. And I said, yeah, and it comes in with a badge. And I pulled up my wallet and showed my badge. I'm sorry, I'm a police officer. I'm very happy with what you did. If you'd like to have my name, and here's my business card. Do you guys allow police officers in your organization? I'm in your house. You're hosting me. You make the rules of the house. I just happen to be the guest, and I want to play by those rules. But this is a scenario that happened to me. So yes, let the church know whatever you're planning to do, let them know, hey, I'm a retired law enforcement. I got a permit to carry. I'll be happy to help you out. I don't think they will deny that offer. They will be like, we love you. Come over right here.
Right.
You know, so I think it's great. I think it's a matter of communication what it comes down to.
No, you're right. The other thing is I wanted to address the issue about, because we've had those issues, you know, you get disruptive people coming in, don't know exactly what their intentions are. And we know a scenario happened like that down in Texas where a guy came in and started shooting. One of the individuals had a concealed carry. He was able to neutralize the threat that took place in there, you know, take the guy out from shooting other people.
Yeah.
We have like all hand on deck. This is nothing against the females here, but primarily we focus on the males to bring in the numbers, which to the numbers help in de-escalating, opposed to having a one usher or security person dealing with somebody who may be physically larger and that type of thing.
Yep.
When they see that in, that also helps in de-escalating a situation where a person will say, okay, this is not, look like an overwhelming situation, and they're more likely to move along and get out of the, move them out.
Great. So I'm going to say this quick. I'm in the process of doing something, and I'm not going to share it with you yet because it's not done yet, right? You're all familiar with the Faith Community Group, which is run by Montgomery County. A Faith Community Group is an office that is run and have Kate Chance working for them, and she's the one who tried to communicate within that faith community and try to provide information within the faith community. If you're not familiar with it, try to get yourself familiar with it, because information sharing between houses of worship also help. Within a few last minutes, we had a couple of gentlemen and ladies coming up and telling us, hey, this is how we do things here. This is how we do things here. Maybe we're all taking notes, and maybe we can take those as tips and apply it in our houses of worship. I'm also in the process, I'll share this with you, of establishing a policy, a generic policy, a standard operations of procedure that you can use within the house of worship. And I'm just doing it as a template. So you're going to add to it. Each house of worship going to add to it. But I want to give you some information. Reporting information. Reporting matters to the police department and what's involved with that. That's number one. Evacuation information. How you evacuate your house of worship. That's number two. What do you do in case of active shooter scenario? That is number three. Trespassing protection order that could involve a person, an intruder, a threat that, like similar to what you had to deal with in the past, if you don't want that person to come back in here. So we'll talk about that when it happens, but I have to write it down, and then I'll put it in a presentation, and maybe I'll come back and see you again someday. Thank you all. Thank you.
We certainly thank the Montgomery County Police Department for being here with us this morning. This presentation is going to be available online on our church website, and we'll be happy to give it to you as well if you want to put it on your church website and make it available to your folks as well. Thank you so much for coming today, and we hope to have more events like this in the future.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Absolutely.